I will turn it over to all of you to introduce yourselves, if that works for you. If Laurence, if you could go first, and then we'll go Cam, Terry, and Chacta. If you could just tell us your name, where you are, your company and your role, and how long you've been there, and then what you do in your current role.
All right, sounds good. So yes, my name is Laurence Diarra. I'm based in Venice Beach. I currently work as a turbomachinery design engineer for Honeywell Aerospace, and I'm also working part-time as an engineering fellow for Codesmith. Currently in my role as a turbomachinery design engineer, sounds exactly I do exactly what it sounds like. I work mostly in CAD, so NX specifically designing turbo machinery components. So that's anything rotating, actuating, pneumatic systems, all that good stuff. And then in terms of being a fellow for Codesmith, I've been a fellow with Codesmith for about 3 months after graduating. And I mostly train engineers on core web tech. So I've given some lectures on test-driven development, reactive redux, UX approaches, algorithm strategies. I also like to do, or we also lead group group code reviews and one-on-one code reviews with students, as well as we act as mentors overall for the residents while they're within the program. And we also get to administer some of the technical interviews for prospective students as well. So it's awesome being a fellow. I get to have my hand in a lot of pots and in a lot of different roles with Codesmith, and I've enjoyed my time there very much. Mm-hmm.
Awesome, thank you. Cam?
Hi, I'm Cam. I'm based in New York. I am the co-founder and COO at Heds. We're a music curation company, really in the Web3 space. We started Heds April of last year, so almost a year now there. What do I do? We only have 5 employees, so it's kind of like, what don't I do? Everyone's kind of doing everything. But of my team, I'm the only one who went to school for the business degree. I went to Howard University and got a degree in accounting and graduated in 2020 before I went to Codesmith. So a lot of the raising and handling with like VC firms and doing our first tax filing and pretty much handling anything that's to do with accountants or lawyers, that is my main priority. And then I also still write a good amount of code, working with our CTO, Ram team, who also went to Codesmith, and our other engineer, Nicole, who also went to Codesmith. So all 3 engineers are Codesmith engineers. And yeah, it's super fun. I literally just was putting out fires like 10 minutes before this. So it's super fun working at a startup. You're building fast. And it's a really exciting time.
That's awesome. I love to hear how many Codesmith alums are in your company already. I know that will continue to grow, but just kind of a testament to the great people that are there and the work that they can do. So I appreciate that. Cool. I think I said Chacta next.
Hello. Well, my name's Chacta Brice. I'm from Los Angeles, based in LA, born and raised. Don't plan on leaving anytime soon. I do love it here quite a bit. My current company that I work at is I'm actually an engineering mentor at Codesmith. And what my role essentially consists of is kind of a lot of like what Laurence was saying, was leading lectures, teaching technical instruction. So giving lectures on things like UX, UI, Node, backend work, front end, React, JavaScript, literally anything that we teach at Codesmith. I am responsible for teaching that to our residents. The title engineering mentor is essentially just, it means like an instructor position. But I also do get to work with some code in the Codesmith code base, which is pretty fun. And then a lot of what my responsibilities, my role is just being a positive role model, and just encouraging and kind of just acting, as it says, acting as a mentor to the residents through their process of as early as technical interview, then going through the program while they're a resident, and then even supporting them after during the job search as well. Really definitely love it. I've been doing that. I guess this is about six months or so now. So loved it. I love it. Still enjoy. Can't wait to keep doing it. But yeah,
awesome.
It's basic. Yeah.
Thank you. And then Terry.
Absolutely. So Terry Tilley, I am currently the instruction training manager for Codesmith. That's a newer position though, only for the last 5 months. Prior to that, I was a full stack developer for NPR, National Public Radio, for about a year after being a Codesmith graduate. I'm also based in sunny but chilly for us, 55 degrees today, Los Angeles, California. In my current role as an instruction training manager for Codesmith, primarily responsible for delivering, developing, and evaluating the onboarding and training of the academic instructors for the immersive program for prospective engineers. In addition to that, I'm also part of the senior instructional team, where I get to lead everything from how to interview as an engineer to some of our advanced public workshops like callbacks and higher order functions, closure, asynchronous JavaScript, etc. So, Tilley.
Thank you, Tilley. We're so happy to have you here, and glad that you chose to come to us from NPR. So what were you, Terry, and actually we could just kind of dig into that. What were you doing before Codesmith, and what made you decide to get into software engineering and to take the immersive?
Absolutely. So if we go back to 2001, when I graduated high school, no, I'm just just taking it too far back. Just take it all the way back. No, seriously, I worked for 17 years with TSA, believe it or not. So yes, TSA at the airport, take your shoes off. The people that love to make sure you're paying attention. I was them, they are me. I worked there for 17 years, everything from people that are actually patting you down, everyone's favorite pat downs, all the way to being a local instructor, to a training manager, and then ultimately working at our National Training Academy with TSA. So was a senior instructor there, certifying and training instructors and everything kind of like that. So that was my last role prior to entering into Codesmith and then taking this software engineering pivot.
Got it. Thank you. And Chacta, how about you?
I'm sorry, for before, like what I was doing earlier before.
What were you doing before, and what made you decide to go to Codesmith?
Yeah, so what I was doing before was I was a martial arts teacher. I did that for about a decade. While I was doing that, I was also going to school, and my goal with going to school was actually going to go into physical therapy. So I studied a lot of like physiology, human biology, which is really interesting and kind of went well with my martial art instructor background. But kind of as the pandemic occurred, there was a lot of, the world changed, and I just started thinking about what I wanted to do more so long term. I thought it was physical therapy, but as I got closer to that goal and I graduated and I was getting ready to start applying for those programs, I had to be honest with myself and said, I don't think this would make me happy being inside during the pandemic, being online a lot. I came across this cool thing called software engineering, programming, coding. I had no idea what this was. I didn't even know it was a job or an opportunity that would be accessible to someone like myself. So after going down the rabbit hole and researching, how do I learn this? How do I teach myself? I got directed towards Codesmith to the free public workshops. And it was at that public workshop where I said, this is definitely what I want to do. I really love this. It's not just a hobby that I'm doing during the pandemic in my room anymore. It's much deeper than I ever thought it could go. And I will need an instructor. I will need a coach to help me do that. And that's why I decided to go to Codesmith, and then kind of transitioning into the instructor role. It was just a natural fit. I taught martial arts to literally children and adults as well, but predominantly children for over like almost 10 years. It was like my first job that I did all the way out of high school to support myself. So it was just kind of a natural fit and a natural transition. Really happy that I found Codesmith, and I was told to go to that later. So.
Nice. I love it. Cam, how about for you? What were you doing before, and why did you decide to get into software engineering?
Yeah, so like I said, I graduated in 2020. So I had went home in March of my senior year, and I had a full-time job offer from PwC. I had interned all 3 years there. I was just going to work in auditing in their LA practice. And I just had a lot of free time and was like, dang, I'm gonna spend like all this time in the summer studying for the CPA, and the bonus was like 5,000 or 10,000, something like that, like just a one-time bonus. And I just figured I could get a much better return doing something else, spending all these hours at home. And that's when I came across Codesmith. I like looked at it. The first video was Will And I was like, oh, this doesn't seem that bad. Like people were talking to me like it was like, I mean, no pun intended, but like that it was rocket science. Like it was just like crazy calculations and arithmetic that you would have to do. And that was just like what I thought it was. And yeah, I was in accounting. Like algebra is all I really needed. Anything more than that, I was cool with. But yeah, I saw it. I was like, oh, it's not that bad. Kind of got hooked on it. I love problem solving. And so yeah, I just did JSB, went into CS prep, and then kind of made a decision and just declined my job offer. And once I got accepted into Codesmith, I didn't tell my parents though until like the Sunday before the first day of Codesmith. So that way they couldn't do anything. I'd be like, well, it's tomorrow. I can't not do it. And they were definitely scared, but yeah, that was kind of like the main reason why I did it. And now I still teach though. I teach JSB. I'm actually in the session right now for 63. So I'll be teaching on Saturday. So plan to do that for a while. So if you're interested, JavaScript for beginners, I'm an instructor and hope to be doing that for a while as well.
That's awesome. I love that story. I did not know all of that. So thank you for sharing the details behind that. I don't know if your parents are on here right now, but he's doing good. He's doing good, guys. And Laurence, if you could tell us a bit about what you were doing before Codesmith and what made you decide to go into software engineering.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I got my degree in astronautical engineering from USC. So if there's any Trojans out there, fight on. But yeah, I graduated in 2021, started working with Honeywell, where I work now. Much like Cam said, I had interned all years prior, had a offer coming right out of college. And I started working there, and I realized very quickly that it was not going to mirror much of my degree. In my degree, I was taking really awesome classes like space mission design and space propulsion, all these really fun things. And then I got into the industry and realized that things are just a little bit more compartmentalized. Like as a designer, I'm going to be working on very, very small components. I probably won't see the biggest impact of my work until years down the line. And so I was just kind of a bit disillusioned with the idea of staying in aerospace, as well as the politics that come with being in aerospace as well. So I started looking at other engineering or like just other types of engineering, because I always knew I wanted to be an engineer. I think I decided when I was 7 I was going to be an engineer. So it was a very long and stubborn journey for me, and I wasn't quite ready to completely pivot out of engineering. So I eventually stumbled upon Codesmith. I think I attended like a JavaScript hard parts with Will. And then I was kind of just hooked from there. So I applied, and like I studied with CSX, applied and got in all within a month. So it was a very fast process for me, which was awesome. And then I graduated back in December, and I've been working as a fellow ever since, and I've loved it. Yeah.
That's awesome. So once your fellowship is over, what path do you think you're going to take? Do you think you'll stay with Honey? Maybe we shouldn't say that. So what path do you think you're going to take after your fellowship?
Yeah, well, I mean, now that you mentioned Honeywell, I've been in a very fortunate position that I'm not in any rush to leave. I actually got a promotion pretty recently, so I don't want to, dip too early, but it's given me the opportunity to really, vet the field and be really intentional about the places I apply to. I'm in a few stages of interviews with some companies that I'm really excited about. And recently, I'm not too shy about it. Actually, very recently, I had the unfortunate thing happen to me that I was robbed, and I had a lot of my security and information stolen. And from there, I've actually decided to start a startup surrounding that and being able to help people secure their security and information. So I'll be following in Cam's footsteps as well. So lots of things on the horizon, which I'm very excited about.
That is exciting. That is amazing. So speaking of Cam and entrepreneurship, what made you decide to pursue entrepreneurship versus going through kind of a more traditional software engineering path?
Yeah, so after Codesmith, or after I finished the immersive, I was a fellow, so I did that for a little bit. I think I extended one time, so it was roughly like 5 months total that I was a fellow at Codesmith. And then after that, I was living in LA at the time. I joined Google to work at Firebase in SF. And so I was working there for a year. Great team, learned like so much just about like how to build. We didn't really build like fast, not like how I am now. I wasn't putting out features every single day or even like pushing code up every single day. It was a lot of just like learning how things work, a lot of documentation, a lot of communication, and just reviewing all the time, which really helped me out. But the main reason we switched into entrepreneurship, me and Ramtin, who I mentioned, who's our CTO and other co-founder from Codesmith, we were building an application that was essentially creating this curated mixtape from different artists, and then we were releasing it as an NFT on the blockchain. And it was just a side project. We like weren't planning. This was not supposed to be a company. It was just like, it was a cool way to make some money. And then I think our second drop like sold out pretty fast, and then our third drop sold out in like 5 or 10 minutes, and we made 87K. And so we had quickly got up over like 125,000 in revenue in 3 months. And so
you kind of knew you had something.
Yeah. Well, we still were just like, oh, cool. Like we have a cool side project and we can still work at our jobs.
Yeah.
And then just a lot of VCs kind of like were very interested in it. So we decided to like just quit our jobs. We're all young, decided just to go for it and try to build something cool and spend as much time as we can. So yeah, it was just like building something fun, and it became, I don't know, kind of a little successful. And that was the main reason we switched. But I mean, I don't know. I still feel like an engineer at the end of the day. I don't really feel like an entrepreneur because like we just wrote the code for it. But yeah, it's still taking some time to like readjust that sort of title.
But you are that is you.
Yeah.
You'll get there. You'll get there. But I love that because you actually are. I mean, you obviously are an engineer because you built all of what you all are doing and working with, and that is what you are doing. So whether or not you accept the title yet is fine, but like that baseline of engineer is what you are. So I think that's really fantastic. All right, I'm going to jump a little bit. So as Black individuals working in tech, have any of you faced challenges specifically due to your race along the way? And if so, how have you dealt with them? And I will lead that to Terry.
Thank you for that. I don't think I've had a direct or an overt challenge, right? And I think that's part of just what society is like now. If you are going to have a challenge, it's not going to be direct in your face. I don't like you because you're Black, or I'm not going to give you the project because you're Black. But what I have kind of noticed is, like at NPR, I found out after the fact, one of the things that helped me in the hiring process was they were looking to add diversity in their engineering team. And you can take that one of two ways, right? You can kind of take that as, oh, shoot, well, I got the job, but I didn't deserve it type thing. But at the same time, it could also look like, you know what, there's talent in a different pool that we haven't tapped, and they actually gave me the opportunity to show and display that. So that's kind of the path I took from it. So I wouldn't call that a direct challenge, but maybe an indirect challenge, because at the same time, the success of me in that role would actually dictate and adjust and even modify how they approach that type of thing going forward. So I felt like the journey, or at least my time with NPR, I'm talking about specifically, was great there. I felt like they treated me very fairly. So again, it's not a direct challenge, but I think there was an indirect challenge just in how I approached and handled that. And then also finding out 3 months in, and still not allowing that to deter how I interacted on a day-to-day basis with my team.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense to me. I can understand that. Chacta or Laurence, anything there?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I would say most of my challenges that I have faced in regards to my race, like Terry said, they're not direct, although I've had a few direct ones where that's always shocking, but this day and age, they're mostly not going to be direct. I would say the way it's manifested most would be something personal. I think because I'm not used to seeing, or I actually rarely see other engineers that identify the same as me, Black women, or even Black men, or just Black people in general. It manifests in a form of imposter syndrome that I had to tackle a lot, especially while I was getting my degree. often having to convince yourself that you are where you're supposed to be, you passed the same test that everybody else did, like you deserve to be here. So I would say that always having that extra, not chip on your shoulder, but pressure in a sense that you have to perform because you are one of the few that is there and that made it that far, and you don't want to give Black people in tech a bad name. I would say that's probably the most difficult thing that I've dealt with in regards to my race in tech. Yeah.
I think that brings up an interesting point too, just around, do you see Black people in tech in the organizations that you have been a part of? What are those experiences like? What does that mean to you? Or if you don't see them, kind of what do you feel like could be done, or why do you think that that's the case? Yeah, Chacta.
Yeah, so just kind of to answer both questions, kind of like what Terry and Laurence was saying, never anything directed to me specifically, but also kind of the fact that I'm very light-skinned and people can forget or not know what I am, like what my race is. So there'll be times where I'm in a room where I'll notice things where I'm like, hey, you were treating this person a little bit differently, and then you said this thinking I'm not Black like them. So not knowing that is affecting me, that you were talking about my people, you're talking about my family. So there's moments where things like that happen, and it's kind of a weird position to be in, to address, but you have to address it. But fortunately, my experience has mostly been, and at least in tech, has been with Codesmith. And I do have to say, Codesmith does a really good job at like mitigating that as much as possible. But with that said, there are still occurrences where some residents, some people might not know what they're saying is it's implicitly a little bit just, it's not okay. And then kind of just to answer that second question that you just asked, Omega, when I got into tech, some of the first interactions or first people that I had saw in tech was actually, they were Black engineers. On YouTube, I was following them. So that was my experience of kind of being like, oh, there are Black engineers, there are Black people in tech. I actually went to this panel about a year ago. I think Cam, you were in it as well. And so I was exposed to that at first glance, and that actually meant a lot to me. So when I'm envisioning Black engineers or Black people in tech, I'm not thinking, oh, there isn't a lot of us there. It's just, there might not be as many, or that might not be like the stereotypical tech bro that we talk about as, jokingly on social media. But for me, it's like, I know it's there. But I do know there's that question of, I didn't know this was a career until about 2 years ago. So I don't know why there isn't more just images of us out there, but there should be. So.
Okay. Well, I've got some plans in the works on that. So I will continue to work on that part from where I sit and what I can do. But Laurence, how does that kind of come through for you?
Yeah, I would say, yeah, similar to what Chacta was mentioning. I honestly, when I got my degree, I was one of 2 Black people in my major. One of 2 Black people in my very large research group on campus. So yeah, I wasn't used to seeing a bunch of Black engineers, and until actually I got to Codesmith, that's where I found the most Black engineers, funny enough. And it was very refreshing to be able to communicate with them on a level where they immediately understood what I was going through, and understood the sentiments I was expressing. So yeah, I'm not quite sure why that is, but I do appreciate it that Codesmith does a really great job of showing Black and brown and BIPOC faces all over the place in terms of what it means to be an engineer. Yeah, for sure.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I had a little, decided not to say it, but I had a little bit of a joke early on, and you all know this, but it was like, we have a rocket scientist, a martial arts Black belt, an entrepreneur, and a trainer walk into a room. Like, there are so many different ways that you can come into software engineering, and this panel is just definitely representative of that. So Terry, I know you had something on this as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's all about what you see. And for me, at least early on, I absolutely did not see, Black engineers or a lot of Black individuals in tech, period, men or women. It wasn't something that drove me to the industry. I actually had a friend of mine that told me about Codesmith. Is kind of how I learned about it and attended a hard parts like Laurence had talked about, and I think Chacta as well. Mine's was with Phil, so there's a Will and Phil connection. Get one of their lectures; they're pretty good. But I didn't see a lot, but that didn't deter me. I reached out. I kind of got into the field. And in Codesmith, there is a number of Black individuals, but it's definitely nowhere near the majority. I recently actually asked in Codesmith if we had an actual number, if it's something that we actually keep track of. And would you know, we actually don't keep track of it, but it was taken as something that we will look at, trying to keep track of, because I think in order to make progress in these areas, you have to know where you are and where you stand. So then you know exactly how much room there is for improvement. And also you can quantify and even talk about and point out or illustrate or promote that increase, or whether if you're not increasing, you can start to think about how you can do things differently. So there's not a lot of representation in this area or in this field. And it's something I've been trying to seek out and continue to grow. I know, Jamaica, you said you have a couple of things coming up. I just recently came across a website. I have not fully looked at everything, but just the initial impression is called blacksintechnology.net. If you've ever heard of it, if not, go check it out. I have no affiliation with them. They don't have affiliation with Codesmith or anything, but I thought it was pretty awesome that they kind of started it. They have everything from articles to podcasts, et cetera. So just to really expand that. And here locally in Los Angeles, there's coming a career day at a local high school as well that I spoke at last year, and I got re-invited to. If anyone's in the LA area would like to talk, any of my panelists, hit me up. But yeah, Jamaica, that's kind of what I wanted to add.
Awesome. Thank you. And Cam, just give you the floor if you want it.
Yeah, my experience, it's been pretty much the same. I went for like literally my entire life. I went to a predominantly white Jewish high school. Howard was the only time where I was like not in the minority, which was great. Loved my experience there. But interning at PwC, I'm like one of 40 or 25 interns usually on like these top client teams, and then you look at the teams themselves, and then there's maybe one or two associates out of a regular team of 40 or 50. And then going to Codesmith, there definitely was more representation, but still around that same percentile of like 2 to 4 Black people in like a 30-person cohort, which is way better than being 1 or 2, which is what I kind of had experienced before. So it definitely was an improvement. And then after that, Google, back to the same thing. I mean, I was 1 or 2 on Firebase. As far as like front-end engineers, maybe like there was 2 out of 40 or 50, like across the whole team across the US. The only other Black person, his name was Chris Chestnut in Boston, and I was in SF. So he was the person I would just communicate with, wake up early and be on Eastern time and kind of chat with Chris. So not a ton of representation. Although I will say at Google, even though there weren't a lot of Black men or just Black engineers in general, at least at Firebase, it was very, very diverse. There were a lot of women. My backend team was all women, which was great. I felt like communication was just like so seamless. We only had 1 white male on our team of 8. So even though there weren't Black people there, I did appreciate the diversity that they had in their teams and not just being like a bunch of all men. So that was a really great time. And then, yeah, now being an entrepreneur, like going to these sort of more like corporate executive meetings and things like that, there's not a lot of Black executives in tech for sure. Definitely back to being like usually the only one there in that space, but hopefully it's growing. My co-founder Mike, there's 3 of us on our team. He's Black from LA as well. So 2 Black people on the board over here, 2 out of 3. So we got the seats. And yeah, hopefully continuing to see it grow. In JSB, I do see the numbers like slowly increasing. It's, it's getting a little bit higher. At least that's my experience. I know I only teach every now and then, but every time I do see more. So it is pretty nice to see that.
Absolutely. I'm glad that so I was going to say, I'm glad you're recognizing it, but that kind of sounds demeaning. My point is just, I'm glad that you're seeing it, right? Like, I'm glad that it's coming through and that that it's enough that you're paying attention, saying like, this is different. Like that's great. All right. So what has been, I'd love to know like favorite part of your software engineering journey so far, and or the hardest part of your journey so far. So you can answer both or either, but favorite part of your software engineering journey so far, and or the hardest part. I'm going to start with you, Chacta, if that's cool.
Yeah, favorite and the hardest part. My favorite part about everything is actually just kind of looking back at the progress that I have made from like that moment of being, this is what I'm going to do. I am going to be a software engineer. This is my plan. This is my new career, and I'm excited about it. My favorite part is actually looking back and remembering when I didn't know how to print hello world to the console, or to bring that up on a browser at that, right? So that's definitely my favorite part, is just kind of seeing that progress and being like, okay, now I am actually employed to do this. Like, this is what I do now. And that's an awesome feeling, especially if you've had the experience of, not having a lot, especially not having a lot in adulthood, economically is what I mean, financially at least. So seeing how that can drastically or dramatically change so quickly, if you pick up a very specific and in-demand set of skills, that is my favorite part. And just knowing that I was able to do that. The hardest part of the entire journey was the motivation to keep doing it every single day, because you might understand this is an outcome. This is something that can happen for me if I continue down this path. I can achieve this goal. I can make it to this point in my life. But that journey, that grind, we don't really think about what goes into that every day. Kind of like how Cam was talking about, starting this business, this NFT business, right? This crypto Web3 business, right? You don't see the grind that goes into that every day, but Cam does. And I would say for myself, same thing. It's like that grind every day. That is what's hard. Just waking up and being like, I'm gonna keep doing it because I can see that end goal in my mind and visualize it every day. It's not very specific as to what the hardest and most favorite thing is, but I feel those for me are what they are, certainly.
I think that's fair. Cam, can you go next for us?
Yeah, that's kind of funny because like for me, my favorite part is the like, oh, I got to figure it out, like the grind part of it. Like I think working in NFTs, like it's so new that like you're working in it for a year, you're basically an expert, because like things are just developing so fast, protocols are being changed. You don't really know what's going, like everything is breaking. And I like being in that kind of like chaos. It's like super fun to just like continue to build, and like knowing that like if you stop today, who knows what like is going to get released tomorrow. So you kind of just like continually iterating and like building your own way in this field for the users. So for me, that's always been like my favorite part. Even Codesmith, just like even going back or talking about school, like the hardest classes were always my favorite because you had to study every single day. Like if you didn't read, you like would be behind. And the easy classes for me were hard because there wasn't that pressure to like read. It would just be like you could kind of read and get away with it. And it was hard for me to really focus on those classes versus the really hard classes where that wasn't acceptable. So Codesmith is literally a fire hose of information. So I just kind of like turned up even more and like really soaked that in, which is why I love teaching and going through that now. But moving into Web3, it's like that times like, I mean, going to Google obviously is a lot of information. Like I kind of like just tried to get as much of that as I could. And then Web3 is like this whole new world of software essentially. And so that's just been my favorite part of like consistently like putting myself essentially every year in a basically new environment and code base and trying to figure out how this thing works. And I would say the hardest part for me was the beginning. Just like making the commitment, because it was very difficult. It took me 4 interview tries to get in. So I was just like very nervous. I was thinking about like my career, like what I was going to do. So that was honestly the hardest part, was the beginning. And as soon as I got into Codesmith, I knew that like, okay, it's like a reset, and I can just like, I basically knew I have an unrational, I guess, amount of confidence, but like I was betting on myself, like, oh no, I'm for sure. They say X amount of people make, are in this upper tier of salaries. Like I'm going to be that person. And then I went to Google and made 185K immediately. And then like, that's just how I'm trying to look at things. So I think you should have that confidence. You can definitely be that person. Just like once you make that switch, that was the hardest part for me. It was just like committing to the idea that this is now the person I am.
I just love the perseverance too. It's like, I'm going to bet on myself, and I'm going to keep going until I get where I'm trying to go. I absolutely, I love that. I know that's a couple of folks' story, not Laurence's. She got in a month, but, but I know that's some stories that are out there. But actually, Laurence, could you go next on this one?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I resonate with Cam. I really, really enjoy working on difficult problems. I'd actually done research for about 8 years before I graduated college. And a lot of that is the type of thing where, it's only going to get done if you do it. You're going to spend those late hours in the lab, and you're going to have huge payoffs. I've really enjoyed working in that type of environment. So I would say projects were the best part of being a software engineer, whether you're jumping into a middle of a pre-existing code base and iterating upon something, or if you're starting something from scratch, which I really love doing as well. I like being faced with a challenge that I have absolutely no idea how to tackle, and then tackling it because it's so fulfilling in the end. So I would say just being able to actually work day in and day out with code itself has been the most fulfilling part for me. Difficult part, I would say, not maintaining balance, but just making sure that I'm staying on top of my mental health with all of it. I was fortunate enough to be able to do the part-time program, which was awesome because I was not in a space where I wanted to quit my job or anything like that. So I was working a full-time job and going to Codesmith part-time. And that was right off the heels of working 2 full-time jobs all throughout college. So I didn't give myself much of a break. And I have a tendency to get like super stoked about something and then be 6 months in and be like, I'm a little tired. So yeah, managing burnout was probably the most difficult part. But I think, there's a lot of resources out there. There's resources at Codesmith. There's resources at my job, which have been really great, just in terms of making sure that you're keeping your mental health strong and keeping yourself strong so that you can perform and do what you really love. So yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. Terry, can you wrap up this question for us?
Absolutely. So favorite part of this journey so far, I'm sure you guys can probably tell I'm very shy right now, but I'm actually an extrovert by spirit. So my favorite part has been working with and meeting all the different people that I've got to meet on this journey. Laurence was just talking about the projects that we do during the actual program. There's like a big senior project that we do called the open source project. And the team of individuals that I worked on was a retired school teacher, a computer science graduate, and a person with a master's in data science. I'm doing, the backgrounds of the individuals I'm getting to work with on this webinar. The other people that I got to meet and work with throughout the program, just getting to meet all these different people. I'm one of those people where meeting these interesting people and seeing some of these problems and things from their perspectives, getting their insight, struggling together, creates this like inseparable bond that you could like. After 4 months of being with them, I felt like I had known many of them like over 10 years is the kind of bond that we created, kind of going through that. So that's been my favorite part, believe it or not. And I now have access to like a whole network of engineers. Like if I needed to talk to someone about starting my own entrepreneur / non-entrepreneur, just teasing Cam, type thing, I know who to go to. If I needed to not only know how to be an engineer, but also learn some self-defense, I can make both connections with Chacta. And if I ever wanted to build my own rocket ship, Laurence is here. So that's been my favorite part, all of those individuals. The hardest part of my journey, believe it or not, has been genuinely having an actual factual representation of you can do it. We think about you can do it all the time. We tell people you can do it. Come on, you can make it through. When I tell you from an academic standpoint, this was the most challenged I have ever been in my life. So this is not the faint of heart. This is not going to be easy. You can't kind of half study, half fly by. Laurence just talked about balance. I need balance not only with my mental health, but also just my emotional health and going through it. You know, imposter syndrome, getting through it, staring at the same thing for 4 hours and literally calling myself dumb because I can't see what is right in front of me. So that was the hardest part. And then coming out on the other side of it for sure.
Whew. Well, thank you for that. Actually, I'm going to kind of piggyback on that question about imposter syndrome. I'm assuming most of you felt it at some point. We've talked about it. We've touched on it in a couple of places. So rather than did you have feelings, what were some of your feelings of fear or self-doubt, imposter syndrome throughout your time in the immersive, and how did you overcome it? So Terry, yeah, go for it. Sorry, Terry, yeah, and then Laurence, yeah.
Yeah, awesome. I'll kick that off. So it's that self-talk that you do to yourself when you're not getting it. If you actually sit back and look at how you talk to yourself, I tease my partner, my love, Donnie. I'll tell her, I said, do you realize that when you are struggling and you start talking bad to yourself, all of those negative speaks, it's almost like you have a supervisor version of yourself and your regular version of yourself. And I will tease her and say, hey, sometimes you got to tell your own supervisor to back off, because the words that you say are words you would never even say to anyone that you love, but we will very easily say these things to ourselves. So for me, it's you get that emotional rush and frustration and your blood pressure rises, my skin temperature rises because I'm so frustrated. And so it was really the imposter syndrome for me was those pieces, getting stuck in it, because I'm a little older than most of my cohort mates. I think I was either the oldest or second oldest at 38. So it's definitely a space that's more dominated or more sought after by people that are younger. So if you are a second, third career person like myself, then you have that extra added pressure. You get, and this is no knock on anyone in the room, but you get some brilliant people like these on the panel, and you see how great and amazing they are, how fast they figure something out. It can be so discouraging for you and make you want to quit every single day. So that is something that I had to learn to manage a lot. And thankfully didn't get through it by myself, kind of lean on my support system, both personally and then also in the cohort, really helped me through that.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you for that. And then Laurence, did you have something on that?
Sure. Can you just repeat the question?
Yeah, just thinking about kind of the feelings of fear, self-doubt, imposter syndrome that you were speaking to earlier, just kind of how did you manage through that and move beyond it?
Yeah. Well, I would say they actually arose, or they were at their strongest after OSP launch, which is the project that Terry just mentioned, our open source product. My group and I had created basically a visualizer that would help machine learning engineers visualize how their models are learning and what the brain or like what the model looks like in nodes and layers in a 3D form. And before that, I had never done any machine learning. I didn't know Python, never worked with it before. So once it launched and it actually worked, I was in this really weird spot of like, who am I to create something like this before, or like at all, and having not had any experience with it before. And so I went through a really long period of self-doubt where I was like, does this actually even work? Or did we actually even accomplish anything? Or will anybody actually need this? Because I barely knew about machine learning in the first place. And that's where my imposter syndrome mostly came from. And the way that I got out of that was honestly just sharing those feelings with my group. I was so used to kind of keeping those feelings in, mostly because I felt like I had to perform at such a high level being the Black woman engineer that I didn't see anywhere else around me. And by sharing it with my group, they empathized with me, and they also just reassured me in the fact that you did indeed achieve something. This does indeed work. What we created is a software that didn't exist before, and it's amazing it didn't exist before, and now people want to use it. And yeah, so I think the best thing for me getting past my imposter syndrome was just sharing it with people, and sharing it with people that didn't necessarily identify the same as me as well. Like me not thinking, or just connecting with people, and not shutting myself off from people just because they weren't like me in a sense. And that's kind of what helped me get past it eventually.
That's kind of amazing. I mean, the bravery that you felt to get into that vulnerable space is pretty impressive, I'll be honest. Like, that's really tough to do, especially, I mean, but I think it kind of goes back to what Terry was saying of the community that you build around you and the people that you come to know and trust and really care for, and believe that they care about you, so that you can have that level of vulnerability is pretty spectacular, honestly. As somebody who's more in like Terry's generation, just to hear you say that so early on and so early in your career, that's pretty, to me, that's pretty impressive. We're going to go to some Q&A, if that's all right for y'all. If anybody wants to speak to this after, feel free. But the first one is from Taylor, and they ask, are there any other resources that any of the panelists would recommend for Black people or BIPOC folks interested in breaking into tech? So we heard from Terry a little bit about Blacks in Tech. Are there any other resources that you all would share? And anybody, y'all can feel free to just unmute and answer as you have answers.
Well, as a part of being in college, I was always a part of NSBE, which is the National Society of Black Engineers. So if you're interested in becoming an engineer, I would definitely visit their website. They have chapters and groups. I forget what the exact term is, but like there's groups across the globe. They're both in professional spaces and in collegiate spaces as well. So I would definitely find them as a really good resource. And then my mom keeps telling me about this thing called Black Tech. I think it's mostly like a website and a newsletter just to stay involved on what's happening with Black people in tech. So yeah, definitely look at that as well.
Awesome. Terry or Chacta, anything else?
I'm currently just curating some, so I don't have a ton of them. And so it's actually been a 2023 goal of mine to curate and kind of get these. So maybe at the end, Jamaica, if you want to share out like my LinkedIn, as I come across and learn of these, I will be posting them on my professional social account on LinkedIn. So that'll be a way that I can share those as I learn them.
Fantastic. And I know that, I mean, one that you may already know, but Afrotech is like a huge conference that happens now every year, and it's been kind of just growing and growing. And so that would be some place that I would consider engaging in, because there's just it runs the gamut of things in technology that are, it's not just software engineering, it is a lot of different things, but it is kind of focused on BIPOC folks and what they're doing. And I haven't been there yet. I was out of the country this year's, and I will definitely not miss it. So I saw a bunch of friends who were there, and like, this is so interesting, so much information, but also looks like a great opportunity to get to see people and network and, you know, engage. All right, awesome. So the next question is from BK, and they say, what is some of your advice for someone who's already working in the field as a software engineer to progress in their career, for example, from an SE1 to an SE2 to an SE3 and so forth? So kind of like any advice for career progression.
I could take a stab at this. I left before like getting a promotion. But obviously there was a kind of essentially a rubric. I'm sure that most companies there's a similar rubric of just sort of like categories that you have to hit within a company to excel. But I think the biggest one is honestly just like ownership over projects. So just being vocal about what you're doing is just going to make that much more of a difference. So if you're in meetings, like leading things I tried to do were just like analytics was usually something the UX designer did. I decided to take that over because I'm the front end engineer. So I should probably know what things are doing well versus what things are not doing well. So just taking ownership over areas and, you know, if you're reducing other employees' workload that they don't necessarily feel is their job as an engineer, and you're just kind of like owning more things, naturally you're just going to get past more responsibility. So just taking ownership over things and being vocal about what you're creating and how it's benefiting the company is, to me, the best way to get the eye of whoever, you know, the engineering manager or the VP of engineering, depending on how big your team is, get their attention of like, okay, who's ready to take the next step, who's already kind of like doing those leadership things, and not just an IC who gets past task and does their tickets and then, you know, is done for the day. I think getting more responsibility requires like trust, and you kind of have to like exhibit that somehow for them to want to give you that more responsibility.
I think that's great advice. Again, my background is in like traditional like organizations, corporate organizations, and then higher ed. So as somebody who has an MBA and has been a manager of people for a long time, I definitely agree with what Cam is saying. I think also, you know, making it known that you want to get to the next level and asking directly about what does it take, you know, what else can I do? Is there something else I can take on? I think that helps out as well. But I think just kind of co-signing on all the things that Cam was saying. Yeah, Laurence, please.
Yeah, for sure. Piggybacking off of that a little bit, a lot of what we speak about at Codesmith is the idea of being a T-shaped developer as well. And it's this idea that you're pretty advanced across the board in a lot of different technologies, but you have a lot of deep knowledge about a certain technology that interests you. So for me, I like to say my T is in React, and it can be in whatever you want it to be in, but the idea that you will take the initiative to go beyond just knowing that your code works and really understand what's happening under the hood. So whether that's diving into documentation pages or going out of your way to learn everything you can know about a certain technology, just being able to speak at a technology at a really in-depth level is an indication of a more senior engineer, and will also probably indicate to your higher ups that you're ready for more senior and more advanced work as well.
Awesome. Fantastic. All right. From I think that Caitlin already spoke to this or responded in the chat, but there was a question from EB around what scholarships are available for the immersive for potential Black engineers, and if there are some available, you know, are they available to all of North America or just US? So actually, I'm going to punt that one over to Chacta to talk about a little bit of the Black Engineer Scholarship, if you don't mind, just kind of giving some background on what it is and maybe if you want how it affected you and your journey.
Yeah. So Codesmith offers a Black Engineer Scholarship, and it essentially will just cover your entire tuition that you would have had to pay for at Codesmith. I was fortunate enough, and honestly still grateful to this day, to be the recipient of it. And to get it or to be awarded it, honestly, I don't know any specific advice on how to like make yourself the most best candidate, because I'm assuming there are going to be a lot of really like deserving candidates is the word I'm looking for. There's tons of people that are deserving to get that scholarship. But the way that it essentially affected me was that I figured out a way that I could cover my expenses and go to the immersive, because I knew that this was kind of like one of those make or break moments in my life. So if I hadn't been awarded that, I might not have been able to actually end up going to the cohort or finishing it in a place where I was, you know, able to continue living in home. There were reasons for that. And I honestly, when I was writing the application for the scholarship and I was writing my essay, I was just very, very, very candid and honest about that. I just put it all out there in the application. I didn't pull any punches. I didn't make anything up. I just kept it as real as possible. And I was just as gracious as possible as well. And just at the end of it, also just kind of put a bow on it and said, like, I understand that there are so many other deserving applicants out there, and that if they got it, that would be awesome. And I'm happy for them because I know that they deserve it. I guess some advice would be is just be as empathetic as possible. Codesmith really values their empathetic engineers, and they're going to have a lot of amazing candidates, but I would just be as honest as possible and just be as real as possible. Like, hey, I need this. If I didn't get it, I might not be able to go to this next step. But if so, you know, I will do my best and I will be a person who will pay it forward. So just I hope that was helpful. Like kind of, but it's I wouldn't hold back. And I would definitely put all the effort you have into writing that application as well.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And then Terry.
Yeah, also a super kind of side plug, because I know part of the question was if it's available to U.S. citizens only or not. I believe the black one may be, don't quote me on that, email Codesmith scholarship information page, but we do have currently a fellow who is a Nigerian or African citizen from Nigeria, Rakoya, who got an international scholarship from Codesmith as well. So if you are not a U.S. resident and maybe the Black Engineers Scholarship isn't successful, if you are an international student, that's also another way to go. If you're not a U.S. citizen or permanent resident, I think is the qualifications for that one.
Yeah, definitely reach out to the Codesmith team to get even more like the most up-to-date information about the scholarships. But I think Terry's right, but I just want to make sure that we get the most up-to-date information. So definitely reach out to the team. You can always reach us at hello@codesmith.io. All right, I have one more question from Cindy, and then I'll wrap it up with one last question for all of you. So Cindy asks, what advice do you have for reaching out to professionals in the industry when you're just starting out or learning a programming language? Especially if you're coming from a non-traditional CS background, a person of color. What did you find helped when taking that first step to reach out and network? Again, anybody can unmute.
I have something for this one, Jamaica. I think twofold. One, the best way or the best medium that I used for that was LinkedIn. And LinkedIn has an option where you can, I think, pay us like a monthly subscription where you can direct message someone who's not in your network. And so the guidelines that help me with that is I typically would send a message in there, try to keep it 2 to 3 sentences or less of who I am and what I am asking for. And I would typically ask for like a 15-minute Zoom chat with them. And then if they accept it, I would ensure when I get on that Zoom call, I would set a timer to make sure I respect that 15 minutes and just clearly have 1 or 2 questions that you want to ask them and then kind of take it from there. And don't send out 50 requests. If you get 5, that's good. Don't be discouraged because the majority may not have the time or the bandwidth, or maybe they won't even see it. But if you add a little perseverance, with, I think, going about it in a very respectful but direct way. I'm looking to get more information about your job or your career or your path or get mentorship. Just be very clear on that in that 15 minutes and take what they're willing to offer, is what I would say.
I like that a lot. I think, again, from my background, it's just people always like to talk about themselves and their experience and how they got there in their journey. So what Terry was saying, in my opinion, is exactly right. Just, asking them how they got to where they are. You're interested in what they are doing and why they're doing it, what's next for them. And so actually, on that note, I am curious for the 4 of you, what's coming next? If there anything particular you're planning to pursue or planning to do in the coming either months or years? And I will put that to Cam so he can tell us all about his new company or this.
Yes, totally. And just to piggyback really quick on what Terry said, I think that's a great format to reach out. I get a lot of LinkedIn requests now, and to be completely honest, if there's not a message, I don't have the time to who was this person or remember it from. So I definitely appreciate the message. It shows that why you want to reach out. And yeah, the 15-minute, having a time frame, I just want 10 minutes or 15 minutes of your time is so great. I usually will accept all of those because I really don't have any time to if you don't put a time on there or how long, I don't have time to plan that out. I'm just not going to look at that. And then because I have other things to do. But if you are just kind of very straightforward about hey, this is what I want. Can we do this time, this day, this long? I usually will accept totally and be down to hop on a call. So I think that format is great for reaching out to people who are in more potentially senior advanced roles. If you're looking for that, usually when I was working at Google though, I had more time. So if you look for someone who went to Codesmith and then like at their first job, they may be a little bit more flexible, being able to reach out to. But if you are looking for the people who are more advanced in their career and like, how did you get here? Having that really specific format is going to work a lot better as far as just like your conversion rate. But as far as things that I'm doing, heds.app, we have monthly releases on our website, which we curate different artists from around the world. So I think on our latest tape, we have a couple artists from Australia, India, and the UK, and then some American artists as well. It's mostly around like house and electronic music right now. That's kind of the space of the music NFT world. Those are the people who, there's only one producer. Usually they're like the entire contributor. So obviously technology in crypto is very new. Having multiple contributors and like labels and things like that, and having song credits is just not something that technology can handle at the moment. But we're kind of like a part of one of the companies pushing the technology forward into the space and onboarding more people into it and just experiencing the different ways that you can collect. I guess if I said one thing, it would just be like about the NFT sort of world. Obviously, we're in music NFTs, but we truly see NFTs as utility, not as what they are currently, which seems to feel like financial tools, like people are trying to make money off of them. And we see it more as utility. The biggest companies in the world are starting to use it in their infrastructure. Nike's starting to use it. Starbucks is starting to use it. They're starting to introduce these ways to track who their community is. And the way we think about it is just collectibles. People love to collect. It's human nature. People just collecting anything that they are a fan of, they will collect it. And so we think of music as a way to, that's a feeling, a moment. You want to be able to collect that. We're in a digital age. There's no digital way to collect those sort of feelings and moments. And so NFTs provide the infrastructure to be able to create that. I believe it's still, a few years away before it's more mainstream, but it is starting to get introduced into the infrastructure of these much larger companies. And kind of what it is right now of, this like craze. It's so early. I'm sure it was similar to this 20 years ago when the internet was first starting and people are like, what's www? I don't feel comfortable with that. That's kind of how I see NFT. Like people just be like, oh, if it's not an NFT, I don't want to collect it because that means it's not like authenticated or real. That's like, if it's just regular on the internet, I don't know if I want to collect it. It's got to be an NFT for me to know this is secure. So looking forward to that time. But in the meantime, check out our site. We have a ton of cool tracks and different artists from all over the world. And hopefully join this Web3 movement that we're so happy to be a part of.
Awesome. I know I keep saying it, Cam, but I need to talk to you. Laurence, how about for you? Anything big coming up? Or you did talk about, your new company that you're planning to create?
Yeah. In terms of that, it's still very fledgling, very small, but like I said, the idea of protecting your identity, protecting your financial assets is something that I feel like needs to be spoken about more, something that's not ever taught directly to us. I feel like, you're lucky if you're financially literate enough to have those protections in place, but a lot of us aren't. And I think a lot of the work needs to be on the governments and the banks and just those big institutions and to make sure that they're authenticating things properly. So I'm going to be working in the space of trying to create a new way to authenticate identities and verify identities and stuff like that, just to keep everybody safe. Because let me tell you, it's a doozy when they get the social security card and the passport and the ID and everything. So just trying to get to a space where everybody can easily be protected. We don't have to deal with that stuff anymore because it feels so archaic at this time that people can still steal your identity based off of this flimsy little piece of paper, right? So definitely looking forward to that. And then I think I'm mostly interested in working in a startup space. Most of the places that I'm interviewing and entertaining roles are all senior roles at startups, just because, like I said, I really like tackling difficult projects and I really miss seeing the direct impact of my work. So I want to get in at the ground level and work on a code base day in, day out and really, build things out from the bottom up and watch a company grow. So that's mostly what I'm targeting.
I love that. I can't wait to see what you do. Let me know where you get to, because I'm very excited for you. Chacta, how about for you?
Yeah, so no super major big future plans, like not anything like starting my own company. But recently, one of the residents that I was having a meeting with kind of let me know. They just said, they're like, Chacta, you should definitely be a YouTube. You should have a YouTube channel. You should make a YouTube space for yourself. And I started thinking about it a lot. And that was where I was saying, you know, that is definitely a lane and something that I've always wanted to do, but I wasn't sure what I was going to talk about. But then I noticed, I was like, I was watching a bunch of tech related YouTube channels, and that's how I ended up getting into this. And now here we are. So that is, that's in the works, and I'm just putting together how I'm going to go about doing that. But in the meantime, while I'm kind of figuring that out, I really do just want to get all of, my big goal is to get all my close friends and family members to get into tech, because there is a good place for them. So kind of helping some of those friends of mine who might have been lost their way in that journey of life, and kind of help bringing them into this world so that they can kind of find their way as well. So that is my first major goal, but definitely I want to start up that tech YouTube channel. Yeah, so definitely look out for that one.
I will, but also, I don't know if you know, but I'm the director of content and community for Codesmith. Like, can we talk about this?
Yes, definitely.
Can we work together?
Oh yeah, we will.
Okay, fantastic. And Terry, can we close it out?
Of course, connections, baby. I love it. They're happening right here in front of us. So if Chacta doesn't matter, or doesn't mind, I will steal a little bit of his, where absolutely trying to get some of those friends and family that don't have a path or feel like the path they're on, they need a new one. Just helping them explore if it's right for them. Everything is not for everybody. Okay, I was taught that growing up. For those in some Black households, you probably heard it before as well. Currently, my girlfriend is taking the JavaScript for Beginners course. Breaking news, Cam, you probably don't know, but she's one of your students. She was in your class last Saturday. So just that was ironic. So it was just perfect. She was so excited because she also saw a previous talk with Cam. Cam's a legend, just so you guys know. And she's like, oh, cool. It's like full circle. I saw him again. Other external things I'm looking to do with Codesmith this year, I will also kind of get in the rotation of doing some of the public workshops. For those that, so this is kind of a shameless plug. Don't shame me for it, but I will get to do some of them. Every Tuesday, we do beginners free public workshops. You just register, and it's a webinar like this. We talk through some of the basic concepts on every Tuesday. There's 2 sessions, one in East Coast time and Pacific time. Thursdays, there's a hard parts ones, and I will be getting in the rotation of those hard parts public workshops. So you'll be able to see me kind of externally there. And the goal, hopefully in 2023, is also to get into some of these public tech conferences. Right now, JavaScript Nation is hosting this summer a React Summit, as well as a JavaScript Nation conferences. They offer virtual as well as in person. Depending on the day. It's in Amsterdam this year. So some Codesmith instructors will be getting ready to do that. I'll probably be helping them and trying to curate some of those things, and myself also getting into that so I can continue to show people that you can do it no matter what you look like. And also next month, I'll be doing a career day at a local high school here as well.
You guys have so much. Thank you, Terry. You all have so much coming up. I just am so excited for all of you, and I just can't wait to see what happens. Absolutely continue to please lean on me and lean on my team and lean on Codesmith for whatever it is that you need, because we are here for you always. But just want to give you all a big thank you for being here today. I really appreciate it. Cam, for coming back 2 years in a row. I just really appreciate everybody's time, and thanks for going over a little bit with us. We will say goodbye for now, and just thank you.
Thank you, Jamaica. And thank your whole team as well.
I will.
Thank you.
So we'll just hold here for a second. We'll edit this part out. There we go.